Amen. I just want to add that I was on Shlichus for 2 years with in South Africa. And when we came back, we weren't allowed to come back in between. So we were there for 2 straight years. We came back in Elul of Tafshin Mem Hey, and David Raskin, Oliver Shalom, he came over to us and he said, "You got to go to Ocean Parkway." And we told him, "No, thank you. You can harass someone else." But we were away for 2 years, and that's it. And then we were called in on Issur Chag Simchas Torah by Benjamin Klein to the Maskirs, and he said that you need to go to Ocean Parkway. So we said to him, he said, "The Rebbe will us do his own game." So we said, "What were the words that the Rebbe said?" So he said that the Rebbe said that ich will the Kvuzes, was ist zurückgekommen von dort in Afrika, sollen gehen in Ocean Parkway. And the next morning we were there at 7:30 and we stayed longer than any other group, we were told. And but in the meantime, we got this perk. Rabbi was still doing those shiurim to the Shulem in Ocean Parkway and Rabbi Mentlik in Nigla. And he came twice a week to give the shiur, and we asked him to do shiur in Samach Vav. But every once in a while, I remember the Maimah of Chav Cheshvan, Tavshin Mem Vav is Lech Lecha, which was a Maimah King Sicha, part of a different Sicha. And he gave us over the head for not being able to chazer it properly. We just gave him, and then we couldn't. He's verloren the ganze Chiddush. And ad kedei kach that the next year, Mem Zayin, on Yud Beis Tavis, was the Sicha about the Dan Natzach, and to sit down and start getting Fahers 3 times. And so the first Faher, we decided we're going to take in Chassidus by Rabbi Yoel in Hasidish Samach Vav. And the reason we did that was because we had learned Hasidish with him, and we knew how he lived with it. And he asked us one question, something about Israel or something like that, and nobody said one word. And for the next hour and a half, he gave a drasha just on this whole moment. So it was such a beautiful thing. I don't know what he wrote into the Rebbe after that about what we knew or what we didn't know. But one thing is for sure, the way he taught these shiurim and chassidus is unbelievable. All right, now we have with us from the other side of the world, and the head shliach of the state of Washington, somebody who was from the beginning of Anochas HaTmimim, and the Rebbe said at the Farbrengen of Yitas Kislev that they should stand next to Rabbi Yoel, and began the whole system that Bochrim wrote the Hanochas and took that Indian away from Rabbi Yoel so that Rabbi Yoel can focus on the other things. And Rabbi Shalom Leviten, who is a chaver of Mekas and Yana Chinuch, the head shliach, as I said, the state of Washington, one of the boys who was around from the beginning those days, the good old days. Please, Rabbi Leviten. You need to unmute yourself, Rabbi. Rabbi, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. You need to press unmute on the top right hand.
Do you hear me now?
Now we hear.
Okay. My Mechuten, Rabbi Wiener said before, Rabbi Yoel, he was totally unself-conscious or unpretentious. When I think about Rabbi Yoel, we are from the Kitta in Tofshin Chof Beis in Bedford. For 2 years we were Rabbi Yoel in Bedford, Chof Beis and Chof Gimel. We learned by him, I'm sure you heard before, from Shulem, Lewa Shapiro, the Thousand Dayan Altein Kitta in Derech Mitzvah. Late in 770 at the Yevna Shidduch Chof Hey in Samach Vav. But more personally, I'm going to talk personal, more than the learning of the Sichis, the Mamorim from Rebbe, Bika the Mam, and from the Hamshechim, was I observed them over the years. all the way till Mamish, the letzte Chadoshim. And what had geschrieben, what had gesagt. And then even the Dei Shvi, the Dire Batachtenim, the Rebbe's Mahalach, and the Rebbe's the Chiddush from the Dei Shvi. In the Hasloshim of David, there was no Rabbi Yoel given there who was able for young Bochrim, for elder Bochrim, for Chalfa Nash, for the Welt. So we given a tamsis, a taste of what says the Dei Shvi. The Dei Shvi. I'm going to give you a few examples. Personal that I was. The Rebbe died the gang der erste Mal, und der Rebbe mit angedruckt, der Gerse Shai Yichud Vamuna, durch the Chavav to Chavzayin, was mit übergesetzt auf English. Jene Shabbos, nachdem that it was translated, the Rebbe said a revolutionary word, to use the vernacular. One of the reasons that the Shai Yichud was translated into English is for Umasaylam. Ik denk, when the Rebbe gesagt, der Wort Umasaylam, Shai Yichud Vamuna, the ältere Chassidim behind the Rebbe were like, it was like a shock. Shai Yichud Vamuna, eine von der Time, was in der Sibbe gesetzt ist, gewähnt für Umasaylam. Many, many, many years later, I'm talking about in the last 9 to 10 years, sitzen sich bei Rabbi when I came to New York, Freitag bei Nacht, sagt sitzen mit Bochern, mit jungen Leuten, bei sich in Stub. He remembered that and spoke about it. By him, you could see that then the Kuda was very weit. At the Shai Yichud Vamuna, übersetzen auf English, but the ganze Kuda, the line, eine von the reasons for Umasaylam, he brought it up, and he was still, in a sense, trying to get the Nakuda, what is meant. How did that apply on a practical level? The Rebbe gesagt azavot. The Rebbe gesagt azavot. This was many, über 40 Jahre später, hat gelebt in der Wort, wird noch gesucht, die richtige Issues zum Masbel sein der Wort. So gewinnt Chanukah, aber du should fear the man wegen Mifzah Tefillin. In der Chanukah Tovshin Chavches, noch Mechemes Sheis Yomim, der Rebbe Yom Lado getan, am der Ausgehen legen mit diesen Tefillin, exactly Hasloshim. So 6 Bochrim and Rabbi Yoel went to Manhattan to the first synagogue. The shul was then called the first synagogue, basically Shtetain. I've told the story, so some of you probably heard it before. 3 Wochen lang gestanden auf der Gas, and 3 Wochen lang gestanden inside the shul. I was one of those 3 outside, of reinbringen Menschen zu legen Tefillin, and 3 Wochen lang went inside with Rabbi Yoel. We stood there from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon to mamish the shkia, freezing day. Mit mamish, we're talking about hundreds of Jews, and yemel that I come legen in the film. Mit amol, mamish for the shkia. I'm talking to a young fella. And mit amol öffentlich der Tür von der Schule, und on top I see, as a chiddish Yid steht dort, the ganze Levush, a vision Yid on top. And I'm talking to Arambing the Yid legen fillen, and he runs down the steps to me. I don't have no idea who he is. Like the go, it's a bracha in English, go and put on the tefillin. I didn't know about what happened, what Mivefan, who he is, what he is. Aber später habe ich gefunden, that when the Bochum came inside, he was sitting gesetzt in Geland. Und wir sahen, die Jiden, dann jemand reinkommen, legen Tefillin, the Hippies, mit der Lange, der Kutzer, Onho, whatever. Kol Aminim. Hat umgehen bereden, hat umgehen zitteln der Bochum, Yoel. Das heißt, like Tefillin, weißt du, die ganze Sprache, the hand, the Schwurz in the hand. Hat Yoel gesagt zu der Bochum, antwort dem nicht. Don't respond. Und mit Mama sich gewann mit diesem Film. So genommen 3-4 Show, die waren aber Schuwe. It's not about Shuva, Said was, you get on a campus somewhere, it's about Shuva. 3-4 hours später, der selbe Yid, was hat gesiedelt der Boche mit Rabbi Yoel. Rabbi Yoel told everybody, do not answer for the Yid. And Rabbi Yoel remembered the story 2 years later. This same Yid ran down the steps und mir geholfen reinschleppen, Mama ist der letzte Yid, schon gewinnt, gemacht Nacht. Legen da Yid film. And der Keach von der Rebbe's, der Rebbe's Tashpo, von der Deutsch Vieh, die Rebbe Tachtenim, weil so weit, der Achtidisch Yid dort eingesehen, aber das ist heiß mit zu filmen. Und Yoel gestanden dort 3-4 Stunden mit der Bochem, gelegt mit Bochem zu filmen. And he remarked on this, so when when Elul, about 10-15 years, listening down in 14 in the basement where I came, the end of Jordan for Rosh Hashanah. I have reingegangen, sind einfach bringen gesessen mit dem, gesessen mit der Bochem. Gerade das Meise, he brought up this Meise von jener Yid. Und hat wegen der verbracht. Was hat verbracht? Wegen der Yid. No Gimel Thomas, and I hope the Rebbitzin, you'll forgive me if you're on the phone, I'm going to share something you shared with me, Rebbitzin. I don't know if you're on the phone or not. Yoel came out, as you all know, with a public statement in the Kvachabad, in the ganze Tag von Yechin, and he publicly said to Yisi, the Mensch, Gegangen, Pumbi, gesagt, I made a mistake. Wir gehen die ganze Mahalach. Dann gehen die Protem. Ich denke noch von der anderen, von der Friede Gedörs, wir haben eine Psaxave gezogen, wo einer sagen, ich habe gelernt, falsch beschatten mit dem Wort. Gesagt, I made a mistake. If they call on the bleiben the Deires. Is during Shiva, when I flew into be Menachem Oval, the Rebbitzin, she told me, Megret wegen der Dach. So I hope I'm not being Megal any say this Rebbitzin if you're on, but you told it to me, so I could share it. Hat mir jemand gesagt, you told them, what's after this Tonio? You know, people look at you, say, no. Die Welt wird meinen, das mein Mahalach gegeben wird, was ich gehört von Rebbe Nadach. Ich darf sagen von der ganzen Welt, das ist gerade meine eigene Sache. Es ist nicht gekommen vom Rebbe, wenn meine eigene Machschoves. I don't want anybody to be misled. I have an obligation to go public. I sage in der Welt, das ist gewesen mein Liebe. Ich habe das verstanden, aber jetzt ist es kein, das ist nicht gewesen richtig, Levi Yaakov. Aber gesagt, der Rebbe said, you have no idea how verkehrt, wie man ma'arech, man hatte der Herz für Yoel. I think godless that he can go public and do something like that. They call that later. She says, yeah, no, I'm telling you, not only it wasn't Hasloshim that is covered with in any way accepted, noch mehr wissen geben, wenn a Mensch kann nehmen, aber da Dach, was they call on Veda. Gewinnt, der Rebbe ist ein Kind. I'm sure you heard from before. Schon eingehen in Protem. Kolmo Hussein gewinnt, der Rebbe ist ein Kind. In a certain way, he was a pashtik connection. Manchmal mit den ganzen Scholars, mit ganzen Sachen, mit Daven Barichus und der und der ganzen. Had got a natural pashtik connection to them from my perspective. Noch listening with them many hours. I just observing him. Hen was gesagt. Got a Nogimul Thomas is ein ganzer Nogimul Thomas given. Darf mich tun sein Job. Aber ich kann lernen mit Ihnen. Sicher ist mein Modem. Chazak sein Jeden. Und dein Job given zu verhitten der Rebbe's Covid. Nicht zu vernehmen an Not, nicht zu sagen wie Barosh. That was not part of his personality at all. Done his job. Was ready. Later years, hard for him to go. bis gekent gehen der gefahren to do his job. He had a job to do. Das gewend dein Schliches, das der getan. Hat sich nicht gemischt in any, which was not part of his job, hat nicht. I called him once, again by me, Tzadach, but I wanted to hear his Chavez Das of an Indian closely. Without an Indian. This the gave us. I called him for Chavez Das, for Yeshiva Das. Hat mir is gehad. Had ik gedacht dat twee approaches door Yoel in de dag. Had ik gezegd, hij dacht, wat houdt hij? Had ik getracht. And he didn't answer one way or another. He said, wie wird machlet sein? Wie wird machlet sein? We zijn lefia kavana, we zijn lefia kavana. But he wouldn't give me his Chavez Das. Or maybe he didn't have a Chavez Das. He didn't have an opinion one way or another. And I pushed. Wie wird machlet sein? There was an issue which came up at Megadaf Homena Abrocha Egitzufa Shliach from Mishpachas HaShluchim. This is already the last 3-4 years. Egitzu at the Shliach Gadaf Mishpacha Gadaf Homena Abrocha. So I was involved with others in putting together a minion on gain of Fanel betten for them Mishpacha. So I was the one who was putting contact. We wanted to be mishtat Rabbi Yoel gain from the Elmatuns. Eine von der Chabude von Sen. My job was to persuade that he should agree to come. So the Leviten Betol, he was Makabel given at the Gayan, a special car. We all met by the Yoel, with the Rhein, Alat Sen, Geshubin Pigeon. And I watched him then. I think maybe that was the last time I saw him outside of his home, and I would go visit him. I was watching him close. Gesetzen in a corner, anderem gefeiert, anderem geschrieben, gesetzen, you would never know, it's Taid, the Rebbe Mizacheza, the Kahn Chabura, we were sitting in a corner. Gekommen, gehen zum Bereben, betten Abrocha, Worte schreiben, Bücher schreiben, der schreibt, jener schreibt. I watched him the whole time. He sat there without saying a word, but a tachlis apshitus. Shas with the Einzelmail, somewhere somebody in this big world took a picture of us walking with him to the Yoel, the ganze Chabura. I saw when he was standing by the Yoel, inside by the Rebbe. Not geleint the pigeon, gebeten for jener, for the Mishpocha. Gestanden auf der Seite, mit gesehen, wer each steht bei dem. Gesehen, wer each steht, the Pashtus, the Bittel, mamisch, wer steht die Vichides. Hat uns Mechaner sein, hat uns gesagt, noch von Bedford. You understand, we're talking about 14, 15-year-old American boys, teenagers. You denken dein Wort, habt ihr gesagt, so da, one place, I think it is da in Platz, $1 al dollar in der ganzen Welt, was es der Mokum Emes. Das ist bei Remini Vichides. Emes, das ist der Platz von Emes. Bei Reben, $, bei Remini Vichides, das ist gewähnt ein Chinuch, der 14, 15-year-old Bochum. Das ist der Mokum Emes. Gemein, darf der mit der Wort, what's right, careful, und eben nicht, ist besser nicht schreiben. Und hat mal gesagt zu mir, einmal darf man überfragen, darf stehen, he told me once, und später, wenn die Gehle gab, eine Yechide Sache, ich so, man darf einmal überfragen. Einmal darf man überfragen. He was, I would say a personal dach, personal things. It was like, for me personally, the puzzle, a lot of pieces to a puzzle in the human makeup. Find them all, I guess a puzzle for 500 pieces, 5,000 pieces, 25,000 pieces. If I know if one piece is missing, the ganze puzzle wird gar nicht. Even if it's a side piece, doesn't matter. Rabbi Yoel, für eine ist deutlich, von mir kann ich sagen, gave the peace, better or worse. You have a peace, a cook, an approach. Was he's the Shvi. Oh, Amanda da. Then it could have forever, then it could have from the Shvi, then it could have from Dida Patachtoinen, then it could have as the Otala Sova to the Kai, but the Yufta for the fact that Nasar them. Then it could have as the we had gecooked of the Indian from Mashiach and Rebbe, with ein vantage point. Was he's reingehen in der Welt, zu sein in der Welt, above the Welt, in der Welt, above the Welt, du bist in der Welt, du bist above in der Welt. Du bist Maschpi auf der Welt, der Rote Veshuv, was der Gott darf haben auf Schliches, hin und zurück. Du bist dort im Ganzen, aber dein Ätzem ist, wo das Avdein, für zweite Zeit, deine Skashres ist, was gibt dir der Chayes, infuse your energy, du auftan in der Schliches. Der ganze Nekude, der ganze Vernehm, der Tiefkeit, der Reichkeit, das hat er reingegeben in Hunderte und Tausende Jiden über die ganze Welt. Meil ist ein Bittel, in einer tachelige Bittelweg, hat gar nicht gebeten, kein Das, nicht wenn he would be very comfortable sitting in the back of his shul und ich kicken kann Aliyah für 6 Chadoshim. You know? Not, you know, to sit in a Chabad house und mit einem Schrufen verkehren für 6 Chadoshim, weil dann andere Kahanim, he wouldn't think, let's have him on a yahrzeit. It wasn't not part of his makeup. Was hey, come up front. That wasn't part of who he was at all. Not at all. So, maybe so dann, da ein guter Better von der Almen, so als Safas, man kann wegen ihm reden, so mit dem Reden. Durch dann sich mit der Rebbe Kauf Mamisch.